Hello, and welcome to the back room, where we talk about politics. We talk about international politics, national politics, Bronx politics. That's what we do. I'm your host, Lisa Schiffren. I'm a Republican speechwriter.
I'm David Eisenbach, presidential historian.
So, David, obscure federal judges keep shooting down Trump administration policies. Last weekend, the Trump administration used an almost revolutionary war law to get rid of a bunch of aliens who they called invaders, who are in fact invaders, criminals, rapists, sex traffickers, murderers, Tren de Aragua and MS-13 guys who had been rounded up from around the country and put on a plane and sent to El Salvador. While the plane was in the air, a federal judge stopped it, put out a warning saying, if it's in the air, turn it around, and no, you're not allowed to do this. That law doesn't count. So the question is, today, Donald Trump basically said, we should impeach this judge. And Chief Justice Roberts responded by saying, stop talking about impeachment. The regular adjudication process would suffice. This needs to play out. So what should actually be happening in these cases where judges hold the administration hostage?
Well, I think Justice Roberts was right. I mean, you got to let the legal system play its way out. What we are dealing with here is one of the alien and sedition laws passed under the John Adams administration. And one of the questions would be, do these criminal gang members constitute an enemy alien, like an enemy as in like a war kind of situation? So that would be like kind of historical legal question. And I think if it ever got to the Supreme Court would side with Trump, and that's essentially what Roberts was saying. Now, in terms of the policy, there's no question. These guys are part of a criminal gang that has terrorized El Salvador and has terrorized communities within the United States. So in terms of legal protections for these people who mainly prey on immigrant communities, I don't think there's anything wrong with this policy.
Well, and even if this policy is not the correct heading under which to deport them, I don't understand why they shouldn't just be deported because they are aliens, not even criminal aliens, aliens. They're not entitled to citizenship.
Well, the question would be, are they entitled to any sort of protections as refugees, as being?
But these are not refugees. These are, in fact, criminal aliens.
I'm just saying that
Right.
why you would have to resort to the Alien and Sedition Acts in order to get them through. Again, that's a legal question. But in terms of what this gang has done to El Salvador, let's look at the response of the El Salvadorian government when this plane arrived, right? We saw all these images. I mean, it looked like it was straight out of a movie with the SWAT teams and the military guys.
Right, shaving their heads, making them bow down as they walk.
Publicly shaming them, showing who's in charge. And the fact is that this has been absolutely necessary. I mean, the murder rate in El Salvador, I mean, if you want to know why there are so many refugees coming up here, it's not just fleeing economic situations and economic opportunity in the United States. It's fleeing violence on a daily level. Families being terrorized in their own communities in El Salvador.
Although that's abated quite a lot under Nayib Bukele, who has set up these prisons and gone out and rounded up these criminals.
That's right, and he's incredibly popular in his country because the people of El Salvador and other countries, by the way, in Latin America want to see that done in their countries because they're tired of their communities being ripped apart by these criminal gangs. And so it was a demonstration of power that sent a message to the gangs that the El Salvadorian government is now in charge here and not the gangs themselves.
You know, I think your point is great that the show of force by El Salvador with these prisoners was astonishing. I think it should have the effect. If I were a member of a gang living in the United States, I would self-deport. I wouldn't want to be
I'm
caught.
not sure I'd want to go to El Salvador, though.
Or Venezuela for that matter. But you don't really want to stay here when you're going to be rounded up and sent to El Salvador.
This is the thing, and you certainly want to watch your P's and Q's and don't get in any trouble, right? Maybe get your tattoos removed. Try to disassociate yourself from the gangs because if you're facing deportation back home, it's going to be a rough welcoming. And it is interesting to see how Donald Trump is working with the El Salvadorian governments. I mean, this has been one of the problems, how the United States government, we have stirred up so much trouble in Central America throughout our dirty
70s and the
wars
80s.
that we were fighting down there. We left the place a mess. We're the ones that consume all the drugs that are coming from there. We're also the ones selling all the guns down there. So for us to maybe help out with cracking down on the violence down there, I think that this is an opportunity for Trump to actually do some good in Central America, and show some leadership, which we haven't seen in decades.
Well, even just paying to have these criminal aliens imprisoned in El Salvador seems to be a boost for the El Salvadoran economy. The $6 million to hold 200 people for a year is a bargain.
And in comparison to what it would cost to hold them in the United States?
$1 million a person a year.
Come on. That benefits us. And if it helps El Salvador win their war against these criminal gangs, well, then how could anybody object to that?
Well, if it helps us win our war against these criminal gangs.
I'm saying that it's time for us to cooperate with Central America instead of dumping on Central America, dumping our dollars for the drugs, dumping our guns down there. It's time for us to work together with El Salvador. I think we have a partner in this president. And yeah, okay, he's been accused of authoritarianism. But at the end of the day, you've got to bring peace to your own country, and then you can worry about the niceties of civil liberties after that.
I mean, there are these other cases where federal judges have actually stepped on the Trump administration's foot. For instance, the guy who said you have to rehire all the people Doge has fired. The guy who wants USAID reconstituted and the programs to be refunded and restarted.
Yeah.
It is a kind of annoying tactic that these federal judges are using that I think is entirely outside of their purview.
Federal judges can stick their nose in a lot of things, as you know, right? And this is Judge Roberts. His point was, okay, if one of these judges oversteps his bounds, it will then, you let the process go into the appeal, and then it'll get overturned later on. In terms of the USAID, my understanding is this is a kind of a procedural thing where Elon Musk does not have the authority to do what he did with USAID, but the head of USAID could do it. So it's possible that as long as these directions come from the head of a USAID, you can.
Yeah, so Musk started a little early before some of these people were confirmed. Like Trump has to put people in to take apart these departments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think that's what the judge was saying too.
All right, well, I guess that makes sense. It's just going to take a little longer and be a little more inconvenient.
Well, what else is new with the federal government?
So, Senator Schumer,
yes.
our senator here in New York, voted for the Republican short-term budget funding bill to avoid shutting down the government.
Yes.
That is the kind of behavior that is traditionally understood to be mature and moderate
yes.
and useful.
Yes, and typical of Democrats who always cave, right?
Well, Republicans always do it too. These bills always pass when Republicans are in the minority because 10 Republicans vote for the bill.
Yeah.
And that's as it should be, because shutting down the government is actually kind of, it's bad politics and bad policy.
Yeah, well, I understand the frustration of many of my fellow Democrats here because we're just looking for a fight. We need a fight. We need somebody to stand up and fight for what we believe in. And so you have AOC coming after Chuck Schumer, which is a bold move on her part. And you have many
Bold move.
I
think it's histrionic and radical.
Well, I'm saying from a political standpoint, right? I think that she's right. She made a very good point. Because there was no coordination with the House and the House's opposition, you had a number of Democrats who got elected in Trump districts or Trump-leaning or Trump-possible districts who voted against the budget. Right? They really put their necks out on the line. And then Chuck Schumer then just kind of throws that fight away, right? Without trying to get any leverage to work out a deal. The Republicans have taken Democrats over the line. I mean, think about all those budget fights under Obama. It was like pulling teeth with them. They even shut down the government.
But they always cave.
Yeah, but they cave after they get concessions. I mean, the Democrats didn't even put up a fight to get any concessions.
Well, if you're saying Chuck Schumer didn't do a good job politically, that's interesting because he's so experienced and because he's very political. And on the other hand, he's got a party that just lost a big election and the elections in the House and Senate, and he's really got to make some concessions. And the fact that the radical wing of his party, which is in control, doesn't like it, I mean, the hell with him.
I remember when Obama was first inaugurated, right? And there was a meeting with Mitch McConnell and others who said, and Paul Ryan, we're going to make Obama a one-term president. And they did their damnedest to make him a one-term president. And they sabotaged his economy with all those threats to the government shutdown. And that's the kind of fighting Democrats are desperate for, which they're not going to get from Chuck Schumer.
So this illustrates that Democrats have no leader. I mean,
well, yeah, that's the point.
Okay, well, so in some poll, AOC was regarded as the leader of the Democratic Party. She got 10% of the vote. 10%.
10% of what vote?
Of whatever vote it was to the poll of the poll.
Oh, okay.
Who's the actual leader of the Democratic Party?
Well, this is the big question, and people are already talking about Chuck Schumer, right? He's got a re-election in 2028.
2028.
I'm not sure how old he's going to be at that point. And the question is now arising: are we ready for new leadership?
You know what?
Just like
as a New Yorker,
we were overdue for new leadership in the House with Nancy Pelosi just hanging on desperately to power way too long than she should have. Is Chuck done? That is something that Democrats are discussing right now.
As a New Yorker, I think it is legitimate for Chuck to be done. I think I'm tired of Chuck. I think Chuck has had a long career. He's had
Which
a
in
very
politics
long
is a successful career.
And
longevity has its own
But I would hate
charm.
to see, as I keep hearing, that AOC primaries him because I would hate for her to win.
Well,
she is genuinely radical. She's a little bit stupid. She is not who you want representing the state of New York in the United States Senate.
She'll raise a ton of money. Chuck will raise a ton of money. I mean, talk about a battle because the two of them slugging it out. I think it would be entertaining. I mean, just from a purely political entertainment value, that would be a hell of a primary.
I guess so, but the outcome is bad whichever way it ends. and really, I wish there were somebody else besides her who was opposition to him.
Yeah, not New York City. She's the only one who could possibly take on Chuck Schumer and win, even at his advanced age in 2028.
I guess he certainly doesn't deserve another term. He's done enough damage. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about international politics. Stick with us. Welcome back to the back room. Tonight, a little earlier, the spaceship built by Elon Musk brought back 2 astronauts who've been stuck in space for 9 months. Apparently, when they got stuck, Elon Musk offered the Biden administration the same deal he gave Trump, that he'd send his rockets to get them. The Biden administration turned him down because they didn't want him to get credit for rescuing these 2 brave astronauts who have been stuck in space for 9 months, which is horrific. So what do you think? Why is Elon Musk not getting credit for this?
Well, I can't wait to see their interview, and I want to get that full story and what it must have been like when you're only supposed to be up there. They were only supposed to be up there for like
a week.
And this Boeing, of course, Boeing, as if Boeing doesn't have enough troubles, right? Their spacecraft fails, it's got a helium leak and stuff like that, and then they can't get back up there to rescue them. And now we're hearing this story that Elon Musk was like, you know, I got a rocket that can get up there and get them down. And if it is true that Biden says no and leaving these poor people up there, man.
No, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And I hope that if that is absolutely true, they go out whole hog and they do a media tour and they talk about how they were abandoned up there by the Biden administration, if that's true. But regardless, cheers to Elon Musk. I mean, this is exactly what when NASA decides to kind of switch to a privatization of space exploration, you know, there was a reason for that. NASA couldn't get up there to rescue these astronauts. Boeing, which has been around forever, couldn't get up there. But it was SpaceX who did it. And thank God they did that because, who knows? It would be terrifying being up in that tin can for 9 months, not knowing when you're going to be able to come back.
No, I think it'd be really horrible. I'm sure they're both depressed and anxious and miserable.
And by the way, even when they were
and I'm
up
sure
there,
they won't say that either.
Well, what they did say is, thank you, Elon Musk, and thank you, Donald Trump. They did say that when they were interviewed up in the space.
They did say that.
The space station. So, cheers to them for sticking it out. They talk about a good sense of humor. Can you imagine, right? You're just supposed to be up there with one person for a week, and you wind up stuck up there with the same person for 9 months. I mean, I couldn't do it, and cheers to them for going through with it.
Right. So the United States this week began bombing the Yemenite Houthi rebels who have been taking over the Red Sea lanes, keeping people out, shooting down ships, shooting down airplanes. So the United States came in as, in our guise as leaders of the free world to get rid of the Houthis and make them stop.
Well, getting rid of the Houthis is like,
The Iran-backed Houthis.
Yeah.
So this is Iran that we're going after yet again. Iran is responsible for basically all of the trouble in the Middle East at the moment.
Lisa, come on. The Middle East has always got trouble, and there are no innocent parties in the Middle East.
Iran is behind Hamas, Hezbollah. It's behind...
And Syria is behind Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all these other groups that are equally
Well,
as bad.
Syria is a fabulous topic for another night.
Right.
But the Houthis,
like they're,
should we be
the Middle
bombing
East
the
troubles
Houthis?
is not on Iran. Iran is not a pillar of peace,
Okay.
but they're not the cause of all the trouble.
90%. 90% on Iran. But the Houthis have nothing. Yemen is a poor country. It's a backward. There's a word for it. We're not allowed to say it on TV, but
It's like the poorest country on earth, I think, statistically.
It is a hellhole.
Well, yeah. Well, it certainly wasn't made any better by the decade-long war that the Saudis perpetrated against them.
Although the Saudis
constantly bombing them with American weapons, by the way.
I think
Not
the
one of our
I think the Saudis
prouder dirty wars that
the
we have
Saudis
fought.
have made their case that they should have been allowed to take out the Houthis.
Yeah,
because
they-
we wouldn't be doing
Let
it.
me tell you, Lisa, they gave it their best shot with American weapons, and they couldn't do it.
Well,
defeating the
that's
Houthis is an impossible task, right?
Is it impossible for the
Biden
United States of
administration gave it-
America?
yes. The Biden administration tried and failed. Trump's going to try and they're going to fail. The Houthis are a very formidable enemy, and they're perfectly strategically positioned to take out whatever ships they want in the Red Sea.
You know,
and the
allowing
Persian
them
Gulf.
to close these major shipping lanes has caused many, many ships to have to go around the Horn of Africa.
Yeah.
Paying huge amounts of money in insurance and just additional travel. It's not something we should tolerate.
Well, but what are you going to do about it? The Saudis tried to take them out, and they were right on their border. They had the airstrips, that could easily drop bombs and then come back. The United States can't do it with aircraft carriers. We put those aircraft carriers out. They ran out of weapons. They ran out of bombs. Right?
Not this week, they didn't.
Give it another couple of weeks. They'll be out of bombs. It's just impossible.
You just don't like war.
That's right. I don't like war, and I've never seen a war that successfully solves a situation in the Middle East. Right? Only it's a temporary fix, and it never actually works, and it usually causes something much worse to come in its place.
There's nothing worse than the Houthis coming out of Yemen. Coming out of Yemen. The Yemenite people would love it if the Houthis were not in charge.
That's probably true, but that could probably be said for every government in the Middle East, including Israel. If you look at the poll numbers in Israel, they're not happy with Bibi. Like I said, there are no innocents, there are no saints in that region.
Okay. Similarly, Vladimir Putin seems a lot less enthusiastic about Donald Trump's ceasefire bid than you would think. He agreed today, apparently, to stop bombing the Ukrainian electric grid,
right,
but not to stop bombing Ukraine in general.
Yeah.
And Ukraine can take it or leave it. So this is kind of a pretty bad outcome. This is not a useful outcome for making peace, which is, I think, one of Trump's nobler goals.
It is a very noble goal, but a part of the problem is, and Trump has a tendency to do this, is he starts to celebrate the deal before the deal is done.
Yeah, I think that's...
he did that in the trade war with the Chinese, and I think he did that this time. And we just heard from White House spokesman talking about how it's the peace deal is on the 10-yard line. Well, I don't know about that. Wars, when the negotiation to end wars happens, there's usually a time lag. There's usually a good deal of time that has to pass, and a lot of dying that happens while the peace deal are being hammered out. We saw this in Korea. We saw this in Vietnam. So there was a little too much celebrating beforehand, and Putin feels as though he's got all the cards here, and he does. He's winning this war. He can kind of throw out this idea, I'm not going to bomb your energy facilities because, well, the winter's over, and so you're not as vulnerable as you were during the winter time. If that placates Trump, he can continue moving his forces further and further into Ukraine, getting more and more territory. So he's kind of in a good position, and Trump should kind of had resisted because he loves this idea that he's the master of the art of the deal. And he celebrated a little bit too early, kind of tipped his hand.
No, it's a problem because, this does kind of vindicate Zelensky, and I'm no Zelensky fan, but his skepticism about the nature of any deal that Trump can reach looks a little bit justified.
The other problem is the Europeans getting involved. The Europeans are now going to Zelensky and be like, you don't need the Americans, right? We can provide you with the troops. We can provide you with the funds, right? Even if the Americans cut you off from the armaments. My suggestion to Zelensky is don't believe the Europeans. They always say that. They always overpromise. Remember when they told us, we're going to take care of Gaddafi. We'll bomb him into submission. And then, again, it was like 2 weeks later, they ran out of weapons. They couldn't fuel their jets. They needed the U.S. military to get involved.
Yeah, so it was left to the lovely Hillary Clinton to kill Gaddafi.
Well, that's right. And she was only too happy to jump into that enterprise.
Ruining Libya for
for the Libyans.
Yes,
You know,
making
light for the
a
daily,
hellhole into a disaster.
and it certainly got worse. So, you know, I want Donald Trump to get his big peace deal. I think he would deserve the Nobel Peace Prize if he did it. But it's not going to be as easy as just making a phone call to Putin and 24 hours later getting peace.
No, it's clearly going to take a year or more.
Yeah, you know.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you back next week. Have a good week.